No days off. No days off. That's right. The Niners are off today. It's a Saturday. Welcome to July 26th, but we take no days off. Chase Senior's in the house, normally on a Friday, but he's with us on a Saturday, a special version of the Krug Show meets Chase Senior. Let's go. Off and running on a Saturday morning. Hope everybody's having a great day. It is July the 26th, 9 minutes after 9 West Coast. That means it's 9 minutes after noon back east. Time for lunch. But welcome to the Krug Show. Brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out there in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. Thanks to Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264, and he's a great follow on IG at Sharp Corners 831 on the gram. And thanks to everybody for sponsoring the Krug Show, who's involved. We got brand new sponsors to announce as well next week. Really fired up about that. We also have this to give away. That's right. We are giving away at the end of the month a real basic Patrick Willis autographed jersey, courtesy of our sponsor, Clawdaddy Arcades. And all you got to do to register for a chance to win that little ditty is follow me on YouTube. So we're at 60,000. We just clipped 60,000. But yeah, if you follow me on YouTube and then go follow Clawdaddy Arcades on Instagram, they're a great follow at Claw_Daddy_Arcades. They got locations in Capitola and Visalia Mall showing up later this summer. But Clawdaddy is sponsoring this contest, and we're giving away the Patrick Willis autographed jersey just for the hell of it. And we're doing it about 5 days from now at the end of the month. So if you follow me on Instagram, if you follow me on YouTube, if you follow Clawdaddy on Instagram, you're automatically entered into a chance to win that little ditty right there, courtesy of Clawdaddy Arcades. Very, very nice. All right, let's start talking about camp. We had 3 days of training camp. Now the way it goes is 3 days on, they get 1 day off, then they're back in on the practice field tomorrow. I'll be there for that on Sunday, and then Monday the pads come on. And I've been there for the first 3 days, but Chase, I'll throw it to you. I want to start talking a little bit about wide receivers, but before we do, let me just ask you, just you're one of the best content creators in the country when it comes to the Niners, and don't miss a beat on anything that happens in their sphere. Give me your first 3 day takeaway on what we've seen to start camp off here.
Well, I think a really positive development is the development of Mykel Williams and the fact that he looks the part so far in training camp. And I think it's been really cool that he's been mirroring and following Nick Bosa in some of these drills. And I think that's really important for him as a player because Mykel Williams at Georgia had NFL-ready size, the length, the wingspan, the physicality, the power to his game. I think that's going to be translatable as a rookie, but we all know that he needs to progress and get better as a pass rusher. Well, Nick Bosa is one of the most technically sound technicians as far as getting after the quarterback at the pass rusher spot in the NFL. There aren't many better players to learn from for Mykel Williams to get better in that area than Nick Bosa. And the 49ers as a team, as an organization, a social media team, they know this. They've taken advantage of this. They put out some of these clips of Mykel Williams being alongside Nick Bosa, whether they're talking, whether they're doing drills together, and Bosa is watching him. And Mykel Williams is watching Bosa very, very closely to try to pick up anything that he can pick up in order for him to be a better player. I also think you combine all of that with the fact that Chris Kocurek, in my opinion, is one of the top defensive line coaches in the NFL. You have Gus Bradley having a watchful eye on Mykel Williams and these other rookies, in addition to Robert Saleh. San Francisco's success defensively in 2025 hinges on the developments of a lot of these young players as members of this 2025 draft class. And so I think that has been awesome. And then another thing that really pops to me is this running back room for San Francisco. I think they have an opportunity to be really special because of the collection of talent at the running back position and the different dynamics that each of these running backs bring. And that's especially important because of the question marks at wide receiver. And I know we're going to talk about wide out here in a moment, but you have Christian McCaffrey, who's the elder statesman, offensive player of the year. If he can stay healthy here for a couple more seasons, he could be on a Hall of Fame track. And when healthy, he's one of the most dynamic overall players in football, and he can do everything, right? Then you have Isaac Guerendo in that backfield, who is 220 pounds, who can run a 4.3, who can also catch it out of the backfield as well. And then Jauan Jennings is a player who I really liked at Oregon, good contact balance. He did not fumble once with the Ducks. He was a pretty good pass protector. We know that Kyle Shanahan and Bobby Turner really value that. That's why Jordan Mason was in the doghouse, so to speak, because he didn't do some of these little things well. Pass protection, catching the ball out of the backfield. He ran physically, very talented in that way. But I think that Jauan Jennings is a player who can do that and more. And I hope that the Niners can get to a spot where they're able to give him some carries. Then you have Corey Kiner, UDFA, who was an LSU recruit, went to Cincinnati, and he was one of the most productive backs in college football last year. So to round this out, Mykel Williams and the running backs, those are two of the storylines that have really stood out to me. And as far as a concern that I have, it's going to continue to be this secondary. I know you and I have talked a lot about that. There are some young players who need to take leaps. I really like Upton Stout, the developments that we've seen so far. Jacob Robinson is a UDFA who you can probably speak to as being a player who could maybe fight for this 53-man roster. Robert Saleh had said it's an open competition at the safety spot. Jair Brown struggled last year in year two after I thought he was pretty good as a rookie. He had the interception of Mac Jones yesterday, so that's a good thing. But I just worry about the depth, the overall talent, and the learning curve that we're seeing taking place in the secondary. So those are the storylines that I've been kind of monitoring here so far. And then obviously the Brock Purdy, the George Kittle connection has been alive and well too.
Well, for me, it's a couple different areas. I mean, Mykel Williams, I think, has definitely flashed. It's hard to evaluate these non-padded practices when it's tackle football and we're watching essentially the flag. We're watching a flag football game in the middle of, and then trying to say, well, which of these guys is going to make it big when they start hitting? So it's hard to say. But I will say, just from the first 3 days, what stood out to me was on offense, Demarcus Robinson. Demarcus Robinson is a factor. Demarcus Robinson is a really good receiver. I don't know if it's because his name's Robinson and there's a lot of Robinsons and maybe that's a generic name to some people. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's just because he's played in the shadow of Mahomes and Tyreek Hill in Kansas City and then in the shadow of Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp in L.A. and Matthew Stafford. But I don't think anybody is walking around going, Demarcus Robinson at all. And I don't think anybody, even if you walked up to anybody on the street in any city in the country and said, hey, what do you think of Demarcus Robinson? They would give you blank stares. Nobody has any idea who he is. Nobody has any idea that he's a Niner. Even Niner fans, I think, don't really know anything about Demarcus Robinson. I'm here to tell you right now, I think Demarcus Robinson is going to be the 49ers' number one wide receiver this year. He looks unstoppable. I mean, he's got great ball skills. He's got really good hands. He's not fast. The guy ran 4.59, 4.61. He's not a fast receiver, but he's very, very skilled. He's very tough. He's got great hands. What an addition. This guy's made catches every single practice from all three active quarterbacks on all areas of the field. And he looks good. And like if you told me, is he going to outperform Jacob Cowing and Jordan Watkins? Yep. Is he going to outperform Ricky Pearsall and Jauan Jennings? Yep. Is he going to outperform Brandon Aiyuk later? Yep. I really believe he is. There's nothing about this guy's game that in any way is like fake or, just contrived. He's real. He's real. He had 7 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
I mean, if he had played on the Niners, that would have been the leading receiver. And George Kittle only scored 8. So Demarcus Robinson didn't think much of him when they signed him. Wasn't thinking much of him, period. Watching him, it's like, wow, this guy knows how to move when the ball's in the air. He's got everything you're looking for in a receiver. I don't know how they found this guy and how they got him so cheaply, but that is one of the most underrated signings of the offseason, I think, is Demarcus Robinson. So really, to me, that he stood out on the offensive side. And then on the defensive side, once again, the pads aren't on, but who typically looks good in training camp? It's not typically old guys, and it's not typically rookies. Yeah. It's guys in year 2, guys in year 3, guys who had a cup of coffee in the NFL, had a taste of it, then went back, started working out, started planning, started preparing for the offseason, and now here they are in year 2, year 3, ready to make that significant step up. And for the Niners, this is kind of a large group in the secondary. This group includes Renardo Green, Jair Brown, maybe to a lesser extent Demo Lenore, but I won't throw him in there. But then you've also got Richie Grant, Jason Pinnock, Darrell Luter, all these guys, and then and then even the new guys. I mean, Upton Stout, Jacob Robinson yesterday made a really nice play on the ball to end practice. Canteens flying around. So I'm just saying they've got some young defensive backs that are really showing. Now, the first day, they didn't make any plays at all. Like, I mean, it was just like receivers did anything they wanted. But there was a little bit more pushback on day 2, and then a lot more pushback on day 3. And I think some of those young DBs, I know a lot of people want to rip Jair Brown. He had a nice interception yesterday. He's in great shape, looks terrific. The two new free agent safeties, Grant and Pinnock, are young veterans who look like they're ready to contribute. Luter looks good. Stout looks good. Jacob Robinson. But I mean, to me, until he hurt the hamstring yesterday, I thought Renardo Green might have been one of the bright spots of yesterday's practice. He had 2 or 3 PBUs, looked great, and then he pulled his hammy at the end of practice. So, that's going to be an issue, right? Because the Niners lack depth. But I thought overall, that's what stood out: the Niner DBs and Robinson as a receiver. Let's get into the receivers a little bit. Let's talk about these guys individually. Why don't we start with Aiyuk? He's the best receiver they have on paper, according to stats and what we've seen in the past. What do you think? What can the Niners expect out of Aiyuk? When can they expect Aiyuk back?
I have no idea, and I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, John Lynch said the other day, we're nowhere close to having a concrete timeline for when he can make his return to the lineup. And you think about when he suffered that ACL, MCL, and other structural damage in his knee when that injury occurred against Kansas City. That was in October, right? And so this isn't a Stephon Diggs situation where he was fully cleared for the start of Patriots training camp after he tore his ACL last year. He only tore his ACL. Aiyuk had as bad of a knee injury as you could have had, especially given the circumstances of him just signing that contract after the long hold in, all of the cryptic messages, the little verbal beef with Kyle Shanahan on the practice field, how he started the year, and then for him to get hurt so early in the year, it just sucked all the way around. I think there is a positive element here, though. It's that Aiyuk has been on the field with his wide receivers, chopping it up with Jauan Jennings. And he, in some of these individual route running drills, hasn't run anywhere close to full speed, but he's been running some routes. And I think that that's a positive step in the right direction for him coming back. But I think that he's going to be back probably around the midway portion of the season. I would safely say weeks 7 through 10 is a good target period for him. And what can we expect? I also don't know, because how is he going to hold up given the severity of that knee injury? Because he was a player who had speed, who had change of direction and suddenness to his game. People forget, prior to him getting hurt, he was one of the best, most pristine, most technical route runners in the game. And he had excellent footwork, really good change of direction skills. He was a technician as a route runner. And so if he lost a step there, is that going to hurt what was a previous strength, because he could beat zone, he could beat man, he would be able to beat some of the top DBs in the game with head fakes, with the route running. And he was so dynamic picking up yards after the catch, not to a level of Deebo Samuel, but underrated because he was playing with Deebo Samuel. And so if the Niners can get a player close to who Aiyuk was in 2023 when he was a second team All-Pro, what a huge boost to this offense. And I kind of look at it in this manner, right? If the Niners are competitive and they're floating around 500 or they're a few games over 500, the addition of Aiyuk could basically be like an NFL trade deadline pickup for the San Francisco 49ers offense once he does come back. And that could be a pretty big lift and boost for this unit.
All right. So he's wide receiver 1. But we're going to go through this unit. What Ricky Pearsall, probably going to debut tomorrow. Pads come on Monday. He's been working out on a side field. He looks great working out on the side field. I mean, he looks bigger than ever. He looks stronger than ever. He looks explosive. Supposedly him and Cowing and Purdy put in a lot of work in the offseason. What do you think is a reasonable expectation of Ricky Pearsall? He had a very weird rookie year, maybe the weirdest of all time, regardless of position, right? He was shot, and then when he did get in there, he looked terrible for like 5 games. He was running around. He wasn't getting anything done. And then suddenly, the last 2 games of the year, he looked like the player that the Niners envisioned when they drafted him, a guy who's maybe going to be an unstoppable Purdy to Pearsall. Is it ever going to be like, Stafford to Cooper Kupp or Stafford to Puka Nacua, where it's coming, and yet those guys are on the same page to such a level that you can't stop it?
Yeah, with Pearsall, 2 hamstring injuries in as many training camps is a little bit worrisome for me. And then Renardo Green goes down with a hamstring injury the other day, and Jacob Cowing, first day of training camp, running against air, he hurts his hamstring. The Niners need to figure something out there. But with Pearsall, I do like the game. A lot of the same attributes that Aiyuk has, Pearsall has. Good footwork, good route running. For his size, he plays bigger than his size. He's really tough. He's a willing run blocker. Kyle Shanahan just loves those foundational skills and the effort level from wide receivers. And we know that Shanahan notoriously is very hard on young wide receivers. But with Pearsall last year, I actually think what he did was pretty impressive given the circumstances. He didn't do anything throughout training camp or the preseason because of the shoulder subluxation and the hamstring injury. And then right before the year, you're thinking, okay, maybe he's going to be in the lineup and he can be a factor early in the year. He gets shot. He misses all that time. He comes back. He has the 46-yard pitch and catch against the Buccaneers. That was his first career touchdown, where he showed explosiveness and getaway speed, the high step to beat Antoine Winfield to the pylon on that play. It's one of the top safeties in the game, and Pearsall beat him to the corner of the end zone. That was impressive. Then, as you mentioned, he went on that, 5-game stretch where he did not have a catch, and then he caught fire late in the year. Huge performance against Detroit, contested catch, touchdown against Brian Branch, one of the top young DBs in the game, and then he had another really difficult touchdown catch in the regular season finale against Arizona. If I were to tell you that with how much time he missed and everything that happened, with him having no acclimation period really to learn what the NFL game is about, to learn this offense because he was out, if I were to tell you that he had 400 receiving yards last year, I think a lot of people would be surprised. So that came in 11 games, 4 starts, but you have to take that with a grain of salt because he wasn't playing a lot, or at least getting targeted a lot in a lot of those games. And so is it realistic to say that he should have 700 to 800 yards receiving this year? He had 3 touchdowns last year. Can he bump that number up to 6? If Pearsall has 60 catches for 800 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns, given all of the weapons on this offense, I would look at that as a very productive season. I don't think he's going to pop off for 1,000 yards. I think it's possible, but I think this Niners offense is at its best when Brock Purdy can play point guard, when he can evenly distribute the ball throwing wise to all of the different weapons. Also factor in that Christian McCaffrey coming out of the backfield is going to occupy a lot of those receiving targets, and a strength of this Niners offense is running it. And so I think that's a realistic expectation. And if Pearsall does that this year, I think that's a really solid year too for him.
Now, how about JJ? It was interesting the other day. Um, Eric Branch, 49er beat writer, had a predictions column out that I thought was kind of interesting. And in his predictions column, he predicted that Jauan Jennings, the Niners will rip up his 1 year contract for $7 million plus or whatever, and give him a 3 year, $47.5 million deal with $30 million guaranteed. That to me, I don't see that happening. But Branch does. Jennings is not a holdout. He's not a hold in. So he is participating in practice, which indicates to some people that maybe the Niners have promised him that they're going to take care of him to some degree. The 3 years, $47.5 million. I mean, that seems like they're spending too much on their wide receivers to me. But what do you think? What do you think of Jennings and his decision to not hold out or hold in? And do you think Branch is right? Is he staring at a 3 year, $47.5 million extension here?
I think the happy zone where I'd be comfortable is between 11 and $15 million. That AAV on that Branch contract projection would be 15.6. And so that's a little bit higher than what I would like. But if he gives you 975 receiving yards again, and he has a 2025 like he did in 2024, I think that price tag is pretty good for a legitimate number two. I mean, there are other teams in the NFL who are paying $25 million per year for the second wide receiver on their team. But I don't know if Jennings can duplicate that production in 2025 like he did in 2024, because last year they were the second most injured offense in the NFL. And if injury luck replays itself year over year again, that would just be an awful circumstance for San Francisco. But I like how he's handled this. There has not been any contract drama. He hasn't said anything that's asinine to rub people the wrong way. He hasn't gone on social media to post a cryptic message. He hasn't demanded a trade like Deebo. He hasn't carried himself like Aiyuk. He's been all business. He shows up day one at training camp. He starts practicing. He catches 3 balls on day one. And he says, you know what? I'm going to prove that I'm worth it. And I think that went a long way for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They were so over the Aiyuk drama, the Deebo drama, how long it took to get Nick Bosa signed. And I think they clearly appreciate how Aiyuk has handled this entire situation, which is why they dapped each other up day one of training camp. Prior to that, they spoke very highly of Jauan Jennings. This is a guy who just embodies what the Niners are all about. And Kyle Shanahan even said it. When you handle situations like this, it makes it easier to pay you. And so I think ultimately the Niners will get a deal done. Hopefully it's between 11 and 15 million, because I think that could end up being a really solid contract for San Francisco.
Now, Robinson's interesting. Let's talk about him for a second. I just think that he is, the Niners really struggled last year. They got a lot of man coverage. They didn't get a lot of separation. They were dead last in the NFL in separation. And then you look at Robinson, he scored 7 touchdowns. He's a really good man beater, and he's really good in the red zone and on the goal line with all those rub routes and all those little, those short area routes that your positioning is crucial. Every step is vital. He's really great at that, and that's how he scored 7 touchdowns last year. What do you see from Demarcus Robinson as far as do you see what I see as a guy who potentially could be their leading receiver this year?
Yeah, I know that 40-yard dashes are so sexy to a lot of people. It's flashy. It's not the end all be all. Look at a player like Jauan Jennings. Doesn't run fast at all. Coming out of Tennessee, he was a 4.6, 4.7 guy, but he's a very deceptive route runner. He can go up and get it. He's a very smart football player. And Jauan Jennings and Demarcus Robinson have something that allows them to make plays downfield that I think is very underrated. And sometimes it's something that you can't teach. They have great body control. They have great ball skills in order to track it. But given their size, because both are over 6 feet, over 200 pounds, they can use their big frames to kind of box out DBs and open up a throwing window for the quarterback. And Brock Purdy throws so well with timing, touch, accuracy, and anticipation, that is one of his strengths, fitting the ball into really tight windows where he doesn't need a lot of separation. And last year, the year before that, when he was top 5 in MVP voting and had one of the most efficient quarterback seasons we've seen in recent memory, he didn't have a lot of wide receivers who were gaining a lot of separation. He threw into a lot of tight windows, yet he still found success. And so that's a strength of Jauan Jennings and Demarcus Robinson. And if Robinson can do what he did last year, the Niners signed him to a 2-year, $9.5 million deal. I love these types of value contracts, especially for a team that has so much dead money, north of $80 million. They're paying players who are no longer on this team. They've had a little bit of a salary cap reset, yet they're still number 2 in cap space. And clearly they're trying to maintain some of that cap space for the future. And of course, keep in mind that this Brock Purdy contract is going to set in. But this could end up being a savvy steal of a deal. You mentioned it earlier. Like, Robinson had more than 500 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns for the Rams last year. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp missed a lot of time. He had to step in and produce, and he did. And while he's not a Blazer, he has that ability to make plays down the yard, average more than 16 yards per catch last year. So he does have an explosive element to his game with the ability to take the top off of the defense. And he has just been a pro's pro throughout his career. He's been reliable. He's been durable. He's been a winner. Every year that he's been in the NFL, Larry, his teams have ended up making the playoffs. And so I like this signing at the time. I like this signing even more now. Let's hope that the NFL doesn't come down with a suspension for that DUI arrest last November, because the Niners even said it earlier this week. They're still waiting to hear what the NFL's decision is on that front. But hopefully he can play early in the year with no suspension, because without Aiyuk, he could really rise up and help this receiver core.
Okay, so now the Cowing has a hamstring injury. So does Renardo. So does Pearsall. I mean, you know, people were asking me on the field, hey, do the Niners have a medical staff issue? Is there a reason for all these injuries? And I'm like, man, it's football. It's football. I don't know. I don't know who's responsible, but let's talk about the rest of this receiving core. There's Jordan Watkins. I thought he had maybe the catch of the day yesterday. There's Jacob Cowing, who's now out for who knows how long, maybe beyond the cut down with a hamstring injury. You never know how those things go. There's Junior Bergen, who I think at times has looked pretty good catching the football. And then there's Isaiah Nayer. And there's also Malik Knowles, who's made a few catches out here. Isaiah Hodgins, Tariq Owens, Russell Gage. They picked up Equanimous St. Brown. They signed Quintez Cephas. I think they're mostly camp bodies. But what did you think of Isaiah Nayer? And, I mean, is Nayer – I mean, what do you think? I mean, this guy is so big, so fast, so talented, but very, very raw. Is Isaiah Nayer going to be on this team?
Classic social media behavior and response. I saw a lot of people on my X, Instagram, on YouTube, because I put up a YouTube short of that Mac Jones bombed Isaiah Nayer 50 yards downfield. And people were like, why are we celebrating this? He caught the ball with his wrist. It's like, really? He's 6'4", 220, runs a 4.4 flat. Mac Jones launched a dime 50 yards downfield. He made a diving, sprawling grab in triple coverage as he's tracking that ball, and we're worried about him catching the football, but the mechanics of how he caught it, it's not like he caught it with his body or he bobbled it. He was able to take in that football and catch it immediately. I mean, look at this play. This is a ridiculous play right here. And it actually hit him in the hands, and then he corralled it. I have no issues with how he caught this football. And here's the thing. This clip went viral. A lot of people are becoming aware that Nayer has this unique skill set where he's 6'4", 220. Look how long his arms are here. Look how long his legs are here. George Kittle even said it on Bussin' with the Boys, but look at that wingspan. He picked up, George Kittle said, like 10 yards with 2 strides. And so the danger here with Nayer is that if he continues to make plays like this, at that size, with that physicality, with this potential, if you cut him, he's not going to go through waivers in order for you to bring him back to the practice squad. So he keeps making plays like this. You're going to have him on the 53-man roster. I mean, you were there. Like, what was the reaction when this play went down? Because you don't see these plays in training camp often.
Yeah, no, I was standing about 25 yards away when he caught that and standing next to Todd Husak, the former quarterback, and we were both like, look at this. And I said to him, I said, hey, look, I know this guy body catches. I know he doesn't pluck everything with his hands. I know there's some crudeness to his game and there's some rawness to his game. But I said to Todd, I said, if this guy just all he can do is run this route,
Yeah.
if all he does is come on the field when there's three wides and run the vertical, there's real value in that.
Yeah.
I mean, real value in that. Now, Jacob Cowing is supposed to be that guy, but he's also 5'9". Jordan Watkins is supposed to be that guy, and he's also kind of a smaller guy. This guy's 6'4", 220, but because of 36-inch arms, 40-inch vertical, because of those measurables, he actually has a radius that's probably the biggest in the league. I mean, this is one of the biggest. This guy's, and look at that. That was a pretty athletic play right there, just to catch the ball, bounce on the ground, and then pop up and land on your feet like a cat.
Great throw by Mac, too.
Yeah, I mean, and Mac throws a very nice deep ball. He really does. And I thought Mac had some good moments. You're seeing the rawness of Nair right there as well. Yeah, he kind of corralled that. He didn't pluck it with his hands. He kind of body caught it. He kind of catches it kind of like a high school wide receiver. He's raw. He's super raw, which is why a guy this big, this fast, this talented could go play at Texas, play for Nebraska, had a big year, and go undrafted.
And Wyoming. He had 2 college seasons of 10-plus catches. That was it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's not, people are like, is that the only play this guy's ever made? Well, no, it wasn't even the only play that he made.
The Niners, he had the highlight of the spring.
Yeah, he had the highlight of the spring, and not only that, he made a lot of plays in that practice yesterday. But I'm going to share the screen and show you just a tad bit of the Nebraska film real quick, because the Nebraska film, just so you guys know, it wasn't just wasn't hatched out of an egg. Raiola. Now, he played for Raiola this year, who's a tremendous young quarterback. And I'll turn the volume down, but here it is, Raiola to Nair, and you can just see. I mean, that guy. That's covered. That's covered.
These are flash plays right here. That's that corner ball. That's a special play.
Now here's a pass that the Niners run a lot, and he lost his footing there. That crossing route. Here he is, kind of working back to the quarterback. That's not the way the play was called. That's working back to the quarterback. Here we are, middle of the field. Takes a pretty good little hit there. Holds on. So, I mean, we're talking about a gigantic receiver. This is a big receiver who plays even bigger.
That's a hell of a play right there. Good adjustment on the ball.
Yeah, and Chase, you don't need to, like the Eagles have, who's the gigantic guy who looked like a tight end, sort of?
Johnny Wilson. He's the tallest wide receiver in football.
Right. So the Eagles had him on their roster, right? Did Johnny Wilson do anything last year?
No, his lone target in the Super Bowl, he dropped it. He had a lot of drops at Florida State.
And how active? How many games was he active for? Couple?
A decent amount, but he wasn't involved in the pass game at all. But they took a chance on him in the draft because of the same reason the Niners are giving opportunities to Isaiah Nair. The thing, too, that stands out to me with what you said as well, like if he just runs that route, Kyle Shanahan's offense involves so many crossers, so many underneath routes. You go vertical, that opens up so much underneath for George Kittle, for Ricky Pearsall, for Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, because when you have a player who can slip past the defense and get vertical, that second safety is going to have to shade over, right? And so it opens up a lot of real estate underneath, and Brock Purdy's so good in that intermediate area too.
By the way, I just did this. He doesn't pluck the ball with his hands.
On the reverse here.
Yeah. I mean, he's like going like 3/4 speed, but look at the stride. Look at the stride. Look how much ground this guy is eating up with these strides. And you just saw him on that play in the end zone pluck the ball with his hands. So it's not like he can't do it. He just doesn't consistently do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as just, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. You guys all watch football. Take a look at this cat and tell me that there's guys all over the NFL or college football that look like this guy. There aren't.
No.
There aren't. I mean, this is now. Is he raw? Yeah. Is he crude? Yeah. Does he need? Is he going to be Is he? Would he be more ideally suited for the practice squad? Probably. Yeah. But if you want to have a receiver on your bench, and all he's going to do is run off the coverage. Look at the balance there.
The balance there is ridiculous.
That was fantastic. Even this.
He lost his footing, maintained his footing, maintained concentration, and then stayed on his feet there. That's freakish.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good stuff. I mean, so it's funny. One day is all it took, and all of a sudden I'm reading all these, people's videos, and Isaiah Nayer's got a great shot to make the final 53, and it's like, whoa, this guy. It was one day. It was one day at practice. But it goes to show you when you're 6'4", 220 with 4.4 flat speed, with 40-inch vertical, with 36-inch arms, with a massive catch radius, that if you flash, And, if this guy makes even one play in the preseason, like the plays that he's made in OTA and training camp, he won't clear waivers.
No. Yeah.
Because of the size and the speed.
The size and the speed, a team will say, we need to bring him in as part of our player development factory and give him a shot. And this excites me, right? Because you have him at 6'4", 220. He runs 4.4. You have Jordan Watkins, who is one of the most explosive wide receivers in football last year. He, too, is a fellow rookie like Nayer is. He runs 4.3. He was the only receiver in college football last year to have 5 catches of 60-plus yards. You have Jacob Cowing, if he can get healthy, who's shorter, but he's shiftier. He can be that gadget guy. He runs 4.4. You have Garendo, who can run 4.3 at running back. We could see a faster offense than we've seen in years past. And we talk about the issues of separating. We talk about the issues of the Niners being a slow, methodical, mundane offense because they also run one of the slowest paces among offenses in the NFL. This can give this offense a lot of juice, and I'm sure Brock Purdy is excited about these developments.
By the way, I saw something today on Twitter that, sometimes you just got to share the screen and be like, what the heck? Okay, this is a new craze to train this way, but this was the guy that I wanted the Niners to draft in the draft, and they didn't go for this guy, obviously, and he went to Denver instead. Look at this. This is Jahdae Barron.
No, this is fake.
This is fake.
Yes.
All right, I won't show it. I won't show it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can show it because it's hilarious, but people are like quote tweeting this.
I thought this was Jahdae Barron.
Yeah, this is not Jahdae Barron, but I saw somebody else quote tweet this and say, look at Fred Warner and what he's doing to get ready for training camp. This is a person just like climbing up the structure. It's not Jahdae Barron, it's not Fred Warner.
my thought was, first of all, if this is Jahdae Barron, he's incredibly strong for a corner. That's a very thick corner. Jahdae Barron is probably leaner than this guy. But at the same time, I was thinking to myself, why would any NFL team allow anybody they've invested money in to run up the side of a building with no net?
Just
if he trips right here, he's dead.
Yes.
If he loses his hands right there, he's dead.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, so. Okay, so not Jahdae Barron.
I forget what you call, like, when you're jumping from building to building.
Idiocy.
What'd you say?
Idiocy or running from the authorities.
There's also a term that, like, people do this, like, out of passion. I'm sure somebody knows in the chat. But, yes, it's not Fred Warner. It's not Jahdae Barron, but that dude's a freak. That's for sure.
Unbelievable.
Parkour. Shout out to who said that? Vitamin Peanut Butter and Carla Zone. Yes, parkour.
Parkour is what it's called.
Is what that term is called? Yes.
Look at that. Unbelievable. Well, safe to say you will not see Larry Krueger doing that at any point. And it's not that I can't do it. It's just that I choose not to.
No wonder the Broncos took Jahdae Barron early. Look at that athletic ability.
Oh my God! I mean, you kidding me? The Niners.
It's fine.
The Niners signed Quintez Cephas, and the Niners signed Equanimous St. Brown. And to create one of those roster spots, they cut one of my favorites, Izzy Abanaconda. And a lot of people were like, see, Izzy sucks. Green Bay picked up Izzy Abanaconda, and there's a lot of talk coming out of Green Bay that they may have him be RB3 behind Josh Jacobs and Marshawn Lloyd. What do you think of that? Izzy Abanaconda in Green Bay.
I loved him at Pitt. He was an awesome player at Pitt. He was very explosive. He had a lot of long chunk runs. He had some getaway speed. He's not a running back who is quick and fast right away, but he kind of has that like 100-meter dash, 400-meter long speed, where as he gathers momentum and as time elapses, he is pretty quick. I just think it was a numbers game for the Niners, right? You have Christian McCaffrey, Isaac Guerendo, Jordan James, Patrick Taylor, Corey Kiner. Those are 5 running backs right there who all can make the roster if the Niners go with 5. Plus, they have a fullback in Kyle Juszczyk, who, if you're playing the roster numbers game, cutting the team down to 53 players, he kind of counts in that running back room. So I liked Izzy Abanaconda at Pitt. I just don't think there was an opportunity for him on this team. What's funny, though, I think the Niners have 14 or 15 wide receivers on the 90-man right now. And so they have a lot of players there. Are those players going to step up and be productive? How good are they? We're not sure. Jury is out. But yeah, hopefully Izzy Abanaconda, who didn't work out with the Jets, didn't work out with the Niners, can finally find some footing. Maybe he can under Matt LaFleur, because I did look at him as a good scheme fit for Shanahan. I think he can be a good scheme fit for LaFleur.
You know, just looking at the wide receiver core from afar now. So Aiyuk's out, but you still have Pearsall, Jennings, Demarcus Robinson. Jordan Watkins is definitely going to make this team as a 4th-round pick. They're rooting for Cowing to make the team, so that would be 5 receivers right there, even if you don't have Aiyuk. And now you add Junior Berg into the mix, who's actually caught the ball pretty well this week and has looked very solid returning punts, or at least catching punts. He's got great hands. And then you also now have this freak, Isaiah Nair. So, you know what? The idea that the Niners may have to go outside for a receiver, probably not. Probably not. I mean, they could definitely look at outside receivers, especially if some of these guys underperform or if there's an injury. But I'll tell you, they've got enough receivers in this camp. If they want to go with Isaiah Nair as their 6th receiver, I got no problem with that. Especially when it's an investment in a freaky athlete. But he's such a freaky athlete that, I'd rather see him with the Niners than see him wind up somewhere else, because Isaiah Nair might be the kind of guy that would wind up somewhere else and really make a name for himself. I mean, you're seeing it right there. I mean, that's not AI. You know what I mean? That what you're seeing on the field, this guy triple covered down the field. And what I loved about it, Chase, is what he said when Mayoko and Jennifer Lee-Chan interviewed him after practice. He's like, when I saw that ball go in the air, I said, I'm catching it or nobody's catching it. And that's what you want to hear from a receiver. That's the mindset of like, that's my ball, and the hell if those guys are catching it. So the first thing is I got to catch it. The second thing is they can't catch it. And I think there's a lot of receivers that don't even have that second mentality in their head. They're just thinking, I got to catch it. Well, okay, but if you want to save your quarterback an interception or 2, you're going to have to make sure, if you can't catch it, that one of those other 3 guys don't catch it. And I love that from Nair. That to me showed that he's, he might be raw, but he's not raw mentally when it comes to the receiver position.
Well, there's a clear emphasis for this team, right? Going into training camp, I think there were 18 rookies on the roster, draft picks and UDFAs. And then you think about what has happened at the wide receiver position. So many fans have said, sign Amari Cooper, sign Keenan Allen. What about Gabe Davis? Well, Gabe Davis said, I would love to play for the Niners. I visited there. I think Kyle Shanahan is awesome. That's a really great team. But the Niners' actions speak pretty loudly, right? They didn't sign Gabe Davis when they could have. They didn't sign Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen when they could have. They signed Equinemius St. Brown and Quintez Cephas instead of those players. Now, for Gabe Davis, some of it could come down to the medicals, right? But also, it's the fact that the Niners really like the young players at the wide receiver position as well. We want to see if Jacob Cowan can take that leap. We want to see what Isaiah Nayer can do. We want to see if Jordan Watkins can be one of the steals of the draft. We got him in the 4th round for a guy who was highly productive at Ole Miss. They're going with the youth movement all across this roster because they know we are getting a little bit older. A lot of our star players are older too. We need to replenish the cupboard as far as talent and youth goes. And we need to develop some of these players because with their draft misses as well, Larry, some of the depth has taken a hit. And now they're trying to make up for that with this kind of youth movement going in that direction.
2 last thoughts before we bolt for the door here. This happened. Christian Wilkins got cut by the Raiders. And there's going to be a whole back and forth. They paid him a ton of money, and then they got out of like $36 million of commitment because they don't like the way he's rehabilitating an injury that they said was going to take 4 to 6 months to rehabilitate. We're 10 months out from the injury, and he's still not ready to roll. I can't imagine the Raiders would have cut him if he was going to play this year. But this is a great football player and a very high ethic guy. A lot of people really, really liked Christian Wilkins in the whole draft process when he was coming out. 6'3", 315 pounds. He's a Springfield, Mass kid. First round pick in the 19 draft, 13th overall. Very strong, great player at Clemson, earned his degree in 2.5 years. He's athletic, he's been productive, he's high character. For the Niners, he's scheme versatile. For some teams, he'd be a 5 technique and a 3-4. Yeah. For the Niners, he's a 3 technique. He plays with low pad level. He's got high IQ, elite burst. He's a high character leader. He's scheme versatile. He's got quick hands. All right, so what do you make of this story? And immediately people were speculating that the 49ers would be one of the teams interested in Christian Wilkins. He's definitely the kind of piece that they could use. There's just no question about that.
Yeah.
He's if he's healthy, which is the big question, there's no doubt, at his age and his athleticism, that he's a guy that the Niners should want, especially with all the cap room. What do you make of this story? What do you make of the fit with the 49ers?
Well, look, we're working, we're growing, we're humming here at Chat Sports. I got to give a shout out to my buddy and coworker, Mitchell Renz. He's the host of our Raiders channel. He broke this story a month ago, Larry. He had said and reported that the Raiders wanted Christian Wilkins to get another surgery on the Jones fracture injury that he suffered in week 5 last year. But Wilkins and his camp did not want to get that surgery because that would cause him to miss all of 2025. And so at that point, Mitch had reported there was a back and forth, and it got contentious between the Raiders and this new regime that didn't sign him and Christian Wilkins, because Wilkins wanted to play through the pain, but the Raiders and their medical staff were saying there's no way you're going to be able to make it through the season because the Jones fracture and the recovery from it has had so many setbacks. And so that led to this release, and now there's going to be a legal battle about some of those voided guarantees. My thoughts on Wilkins: excellent player when healthy. But I have serious concerns about the foot. We're talking about a guy who's 330 pounds, and he wants to play on an injured foot that the Raiders medical staff is saying needs to get operated on again, where a couple of months ago, well, after getting that surgery, after that week 5 injury, he was in a walking boot. And this is a Niners team that was the number 1 most injured team in football last year. So Wilkins, if healthy, is one of the top defensive tackles in the game. He'd be able to help this Niners rushing defense. The Niners situation at defensive tackle is one of the thinnest and worst in the NFL, barring how Alfred Collins and CJ West develop because they're unknown commodities right now. So this could end up being a great move if he were healthy because of the player who he is. But I'm passing on Christian Wilkins just because of the huge red flags with the medicals.
Okay. Interesting. There's a lot there, right? There's an awful lot there. And the Jones injury is not from what I've heard, is not necessarily an easy thing for a big man who's
blood circulation is a huge thing with that. Yeah.
So I don't know how easy it will be for him to make that comeback. All right. What is your biggest concern? The first 3 practices are out of the way. What's your biggest concern for the 49ers at this juncture?
Well, it's always going to be offensive line. So I'm a little bit worried about the offensive line. Who starts at left guard? Is Jake Brendel going to be good enough at center? Is Colton McKivitz going to be good enough at right tackle? I like the talent and the potential of the wide receiver room, but there are huge question marks right there just because of all of the unknowns. And then defensive tackle, secondary, safety, I think are pretty big unknowns as well. Those are kind of the issues that I'm pinpointing with this team right now. Do you agree with what you've seen so far, or where are you at on those?
So you're saying defensive tackle depth?
Yeah. So offensive line always.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle, just wide receiver, because you're banking on a lot of unproven players. And then really the secondary as a whole. You know, Saleh said open competition at safety. And then if Renardo Green or Diamador Lenore got hurt at outside corner, who's stepping in? Like Darrell Luter Jr., Trey Brown. You don't know what you're getting from those players. And then you compound that with, are they going to be able to generate a pass rush? If they can't generate a pass rush and they're bad in the secondary, it could be a long year defensively.
Yeah. Okay. So I hear you at wide receiver. There's a lot of unknowns there, but I guess I'm not as concerned because I have looked at the entire league, and it just seems to me that there's a bunch of receivers. And I think that whether there's receivers on other teams, or if the Niners have to trade a pick in next year's draft to jump the line for a receiver that might be getting cut in another camp, I think there's receiver options. And then I kind of, have been encouraged what I've seen out of Isaiah Nayer and Junior Bergen. So the back end of the Niner receivers. And then offensive line, I mean, we could worry about it, but it is what it is. It's like it's a springtime concern. I mean, it's a concern, but I kind of like some of the backups a little bit better. Like, I think Matt Hennessy's a real NFL center. And I think Pleasance and Zakel and Connor Colby and Moss and Dillard, they represent, I think, better depth than the Niners have had. So the O-line always concerns me, and I think there's a very good chance that Ben Barch isn't the starter at left guard. It may wind up being Nick Zakel. It may wind up being Connor Colby or Drew Moss. But I mean, I'm concerned about the offensive line overall. But as far as list of concerns, that's probably further down the line. For me, I'm worried about two things: pass rush inside. How good is their pass rush inside? I think Bryce Huff and Bosa and Mikael Williams and some of the guys they have outside, it might be enough. But inside, I'm a little concerned. Collins, Elliott, West, Givens, Kalia, Anderson, Valdez. The best pass rushers are Givens and Kalia, but they're not the best run defenders. It's like, can you get by with pass rushers that can't defend the run? Can you get by with run defenders that don't give you much heat on the quarterback? So I think defensive tackle is a concern. The real bright spot, I think, is linebacker. The real concern for me is corner. And just, do the Niners make the same mistake 3 years in a row? The Isaiah Oliver over Deshaun Jameson. Last year, it was, Isaac Yadam and Rock Ya-Sin over Sam Womack. This year, I'm really concerned that it's going to be, the top three corners are Renardo, Upton Stout, and Demo, right? Those are your top three corners. I'm a little concerned that the backup corners, Trey Brown, Saron Neal, and those guys, Chase Lucas, who runs a special teamer, Trey Avery. I'm concerned that the Niners might pick the wrong backup corners. Because, to me, if you said, give me some under the radar bright spots in the first 3 days, I'd say it's Darrell Luter and Jacob Robinson. Jacob Robinson is an interesting corner from BYU. He's not big. He's 5'10", 181 pounds, but he ran 4.36 at the combine, and he looks really good on the practice field. And Luter has been getting out to the field first. You can kind of tell he is really hell-bent on making the team. If they wind up cutting, a good young corner again like Luter, or a good young corner like Canteen or Jacob Robinson, to keep a special teamer or a backup, a career backup like Saron Neal or something, I think that's going to be a bad decision. I think they're going to need all of their coverage corners, and I hope the Jacob Robinsons and the Luters of the world make it on this roster without getting lopped off for special teamers who might be, they may have a few more dollars committed to them. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I know you and I have gone back and forth about this over time. Like, it just makes more sense, especially given the Niners' direction and their actions and what they've done, to just go with youth players over veterans who have a ceiling. If these young players have potential to grow, develop, improve, and become really good players, it doesn't make sense to go with a lesser veteran just because it's the safer play and they have more experience. And Darrell Luter Jr. going into a big year. We're talking about a big corner who can run really well, who's long and physical. Let's see what he can do. I'm glad that he is taking onus on the fact that it is a big year for him and he's taking it seriously and he's the first guy out there. He needs to take that leap. The Niners used a pretty good draft pick on him. And so let's see if he can play. Jacob Robinson, let's see if he can play. And so I'm with you. Like, don't cut young players with ability just to keep these veterans on the team. Rock Ya-Sin, like, what did he do for you last year? Was it worth it? In hindsight, not at all.
No.
Yeah.
Last question for you. You're covering the Eagles camp as well, and the Eagles might be the Niners' number one competition. They're the defending Super Bowl champions, and if the Niners want to go to the Super Bowl, I think it's reasonable to say the road goes through the link. How have the Eagles looked? What are the stories coming out of Eagles camp? Who's looking great? Who's looking terrible? What's the talk?
Jalen Hurts has been awesome all throughout the offseason, spring and in the summer. He's completed over 90% of his passes in all of the practice sessions. I know J.J. Watt said the training camp stats are ridiculous and don't matter, but roster decisions and roster battles are determined on what players do in training camp. And I think the saying, practice how you play, is totally apt, right? And so Hurts has been really good. He's had another new offensive coordinator come in. He's had multiple of them since coming into the league in 2020. And so I think that he's handled that pretty well. He's had a really good training camp so far. The Eagles offense, I don't really have any concerns about it. Like, they returned 10 of 11 starters for a team that won the Super Bowl last year, and they're still young on that side of the ball. On defense, though, some pass rush question marks because they lost Brandon Graham, Joshua, and Milton Williams. So they're banking on some young players to take a leap. Jahad Campbell, their first-round pick at 31 overall, got some first-team reps at off-ball linebacker alongside Zach Bond. And so that second linebacker spot is up for grabs. Who's going to start opposite of Quinyon Mitchell at outside corner, and who's going to start at the other safety spot next to Reed Blankenship? So on defense, they have coaching continuity, unlike offense, but there's a lot of changes, and they're replacing more than 4,000 snaps lost from a team that was the number one overall defense in the NFL last year. So it could be a little bit bumpy early on because of all of the positions that are up for grabs throughout training camp. But you have Vic Fangio coaching that unit, and so that could help some of those young players come along.
How much did you enjoy Shane Gillis at the ESPYs? Did you see his
I loved it.
His tush push.
Yeah, I loved it. I hope that
the tush push breakdown.
I hope that wokeness in sports is over. I think comedy is an art form that should never be limited or censored because it's comedy. If you don't like it, you don't have to laugh and you don't have to watch. But Shane Gillis is a comedian in my generation who might be the most popular comedian right now among people in my age group. And I thought some of his lines were absolutely hilarious.
I mean, the whole tush push thing. And then he sat down next to Sirianni and he's like, is this your idea?
Yeah.
And then he kind of spoofed Sirianni, and you could see Sirianni knew that he was kind of screwing with him. And that
four-time All-Star Brittany Hicks is here. Everybody give her a round of applause. Everybody claps. Just kidding. That's my best friend's girl. Like, she's not an WNBA player.
What I loved was all these Sarah Spain idiots the next day just losing their mind that he's ripping the WNBA. It's like, sorry, sister, it's a joke.
Again,
have a sense of humor.
Is an art form, man. Like, if you don't like it, you don't have to laugh, you don't have to watch. But there are a lot of people who find that stuff funny. And again, it's comedy. That's the point.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Marksman 6238 says, still think Watkins will be the steal of the draft. He's got tangibles, experience, production, and availability. I'm with you. Hey, man, when you do it in the SEC and you've got the measurables, you can do it in the pros. Tommy Huxley says, oh, here he comes. He's a man beater. Man beater. Demarcus Robinson. Demarcus Robinson is a man beater. You can laugh about it all you want, but he's a man beater. Chase, what do you got cooking? I usually say on the rest of your Friday, is it possible that this is the only work you'll be doing today? Is it possible you'll be, maybe queuing or maybe rafting or something? What exactly do you do in Texas in July when it's got to be hot today?
Here soon, I'm going on a double-decker boat that has a slide on it on a lake.
I knew it.
Spend my time doing that. It's over 100 degrees already here in Texas, so going to enjoy my time doing that. But I have to do some training camp videos because at this time of the year, we finally get to talk about football after an off season where we don't get to talk much football. So I just get juiced up and excited about that. So training camp updates and videos. Maybe tomorrow I'll do a training camp winners and losers. That's become a staple program on my show over the last few years since I've been covering this team. And now that we're 1 week in, we kind of have a good sense of who's won, who's lost training camp so far.
No doubt. Nobody does it any better than this guy right here. Hit like and subscribe. Hit like and subscribe on both channels. Thanks to Chase. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to Sharp Corners. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to our good friends at Claw Daddy Arcades. Once again, I should tell everybody, follow me on YouTube and follow Claw Daddy Arcades on Instagram. And if you do in the next week, you're automatically entered into a drawing to win the free Patrick Willis signed jersey, courtesy of Claw Daddy Arcades. For Chase, I'm Larry. Have a great day, everybody. Hope everybody enjoys their Saturday. I'm back in training camp tomorrow. We'll do some videos later on today. I think I'm going to take in little Giants Mets in the KMBR Luxury Suite tonight.
Good series.
Yeah, so watch a little Giants baseball tonight at the Yard. So if you see me out there, say hi. Other than that, I'm back on the grind tomorrow for camp. Monday, the pads come on. That's when stuff gets real. For Chase, I'm Larry. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.